Welcome and thank you for joining Diaries of an Ex-Adult Entertainer with Robyn Robbins, the podcast, where we have real, raw, and uncut conversations about transforming negative experiences. Get ready to be empowered to take inspired action to heal, activate inner liberation, and birth your new. Hey, everybody. We're back with another episode. It's your illustrious, vivacious host, Robyn Robbins. And today, in honor of Human Trafficking Awareness Month, we are finishing the story of the lost girl this episode. And we're going to get into some statistics and some things later on in the episode that will be of help to you all. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right in. Hopefully, listen, right here, let me just say this really quickly. If you have not, love, if you have not, heard part one, stop listening to this episode and go back to part one so that where I'm picking up from makes sense, okay? So we're just going to go ahead and dive directly right into this episode with no further preliminaries, if you will. So I left off at the young girl at this point. I believe she's 16. And she has got the hookup with the fake ID. And she is in the strip clubs. Yes. Shorty is in the strip clubs. Okay. She is shaking what her mama gave her. Okay. That part. So she's finding her way, trying to, again, make enough money in order to be able to properly clothe herself, etc. It advances from the strip club to, again, the prostitution with her roommate, Dana. She has been exposed, if you will, to what Dana is doing and how she's staying so laced and all that good stuff, right? So they're working at the strip club, and Dana also lets her know from time to time, she works the strip for extra money. And so this one particular time, she decided to venture off with Dana. I should also tell you guys, though, that when she first started dancing, she was totally nervous. And just decided, since dance was her gift anyway, and she had a way with moving her body, she had just decided that, she would just dance. Like, she was new to this. She didn't understand that there was an art, if you will, to what exotic dancers do, what strippers do. Again, not glorifying it, but we just got to keep it all the way 100, you guys. Okay, there is an art to that, to be able to pull and master your body weight and do certain things that calls for, coordination, flexibility, timing, things of that nature. So at the end of the day, when you're not looking at the environment and all those other things, and you're just solely looking at the work of the dancer, it is an art to it. And so she just thought in her mind, like, listen, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to dance like regular dancing. And she eventually had to find her way, because regular dancing wasn't going to be the ticket. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it helped with coordination and timing and stuff, but it wasn't going to be the full ticket. And so this particular time, they decide to go ahead and venture off and make quote unquote extra money. And, they're doing their thing. They, handle the business in terms of here's where we're going to meet, this is the meeting point, this and this and that, all that good stuff. And they are doing their thing. They are quote unquote slamming doors. Okay. This is kind of like terminology used in that life, if you will. Slamming doors and turning tricks and stuff like that. And the night seems to be going just smooth. It's going off without a hitch. And then all of a sudden, this loud voice comes from out of from out of nowhere, it seems like. And hey, you bees want to get down, this all of this rah-rah. And so the girl tells her friend Dana, she's like, get into the street, put your head down, do not look at him, don't say anything, keep walking. And so that's exactly what they do. And this guy is spewing all types of stuff. If you don't want to get down, lay down, hoes, and all this other stuff that this guy is spewing and whatever. And so after the incident was over, of course they were very, very afraid because this guy is yelling in the street, he's very aggressive, and they don't know what's what. And so Dana asks her, once they get to where they're going, like, what was that? What was happening? How did you know to do that? And at this point, of course, she has, lets Dana in on when she went AWOL and, she had that experience. She learned from the pimps what that world was like and the terminology and how to conduct yourself and how to, maintain safety. And so basically she was explaining that, he was a pimp. From the sound of it, he was more like a guerrilla pimp. Guerrilla pimps are people that basically they are forceful, and they take, right? So they'll take the girls, they just take. That's kind of like their mindset. And so she explains to her, getting in the street and putting your head down, these are all like etiquette, if you will, protocol, if you will. And when someone conducts themselves like that kind of alludes to the other pimps that these girls are taking. If they're being groomed, if they know what to do, that means they have someone is connected to them. They have someone. So in terms of that etiquette. And so basically that horrible experience that she experienced when she went AWOL and, wound up getting pimped and all that stuff, crazy stuff. She was able to think quick on her feet, and it basically saved their lives. Fast forward, she is now really being engrossed, if you will, in this adult entertainment. So she went from having trafficking experiences by way of pimps and stuff to now she's with her roommate on her own and doing these things voluntarily for survival purposes. They don't have any pimp, they don't have any of that. They're just on their own, which can be considered renegading and all that other stuff in terms of terminology. All right, so after a while of them being out on the streets, getting up their money and stuff like that, they go back to the group home. Of course, at this point, the young lady doesn't realize her appearance. She doesn't realize how she looks. Because of some other experiences, she was on certain medications, had gained some weight and things of that nature. But not taking the medications and being out there in the streets and ripping and running and, living a fast lifestyle, she wound up, losing weight and going back to her original size. So they go back, to the group home. She's back down to her original size. She has lost this weight. She's no longer on the medication. She doesn't get back on the medication. She begins talking with family and stuff. And the family members, the siblings, they're here in Atlanta, Georgia, and she's up in New York, and they're telling her, hey, it's a better living down here. You can make something of yourself. You can do much more, blah, blah, blah. And so she goes for it. At 18 years old, she signs herself out of the system, moves to Atlanta, Georgia with her siblings. That's not the best situation. There's some, turbulence, if you will, there. Eventually, she is on her own, has her own apartment. She has her own job, and she gets a call from her adoptive mother, Raven. Okay. And Raven says, hey, we got some things going on up here. Can you take your sister? Blah, blah, blah. She takes her sister. She says, of course, you can send my sister to me. Again, remembering how they grew up, the husband in the house and all the abuse and all the craziness. So, of course, she's like, absolutely, you can send my sister to me. I'll take her. And they make this arrangement where Raven promises, I'm going to go ahead and give you $500 a month towards the cost of living, because you're taking on your sister. So this will help you. I know you have a job and you can afford to pay like your household bills and take care of yourself, but this should be able to cover each month anything your sister needs. So the sister comes down. She tells her, hey, I just want you to focus on getting your GED, like getting a trade or whatever. You're safe now. Everything is going to be okay. Just focus on that. Well, eventually, the sister that comes down winds up getting pregnant. And so, at this point, it's turbulent. At this point, she has received one payment of $500 and has not received anything else that was promised to her to help contribute. Things are starting to get tight. Things are starting to, just become very burdensome in terms of the thought process of, how am I going to take care of sister and the babies? Now, check this out. The sister wasn't just pregnant with one child, twins running their family. And so the sister was pregnant with twins. So it's not just the sister and a baby, it's the sister and two kids that this young lady is now responsible for. So at this point, she's around 19 years old. Okay. And this is the condition and the state that they are all in. And one day she goes to the little, sex store and she gets a magazine and she flips through the magazine, and in the back of the magazine, she sees all of these different ads and these different things. And she remembers what she did in New York. She remembers, how she turned tricks. She remembers how she, worked in the strip club. She remembers these things, and she's like, well, let me see if I could try to work some, get in the strip club or whatever the case may be, now to get some extra money. And so here it is. They're all in Atlanta. This is what's happening. And she does various things. She winds up connecting with people, working private parties, that whole scene, getting on, figuring things out. She eventually, goes from doing like private parties and stuff like that, because she couldn't get in strip clubs, because in the state of Georgia, you have to have permits, and permits cost. And again, she's tight on money. So she figured, I'll work some private parties to get up the money to get the permit to go into the clubs. Well, those parties were few in between, and being behind in bills and things of that nature, it wasn't enough. It was helping them, but it wasn't enough. And so she eventually goes back to that magazine, and she sees that there are agencies. There are agencies, and she gets into, making phone calls, and she's interviewing for a position in these agencies. This life opens up a whole new world to her. It was nothing like what it was in New York. It was highly, highly sophisticated. She recognized and realized this was a world of its own, okay? Where there was like, really, I'm sure that they had them, but there was really no such thing like that as street walkers and stuff like that. Everything was very sophisticated. They weren't they weren't prostitutes, they were escorts. Like, it was a whole different world, okay? And so she gets basically submerged into this world to survive. So she's doing her thing. She goes in with the mindset of needing to survive, needing to provide for myself, for my sister, for her kids. This is the mindset of this young lady going into this situation. And as she gets into it, she's seeing the money rolling. She's seeing the attention. She's like, this whole new world is being opened up to her. And eventually she gets lost into this world. And her mindset is, finally, I'm going to have a say in who touches my body, who, you know what I mean? I'm going to basically call the shots, and no one's going to call the shots for me. And she went kind of left with it, kind of like in a sense of revenge. This was her way of getting back, and all this stuff. And so she's into this world, and she gets lost in it. And one day, while she is dancing, she hears, okay, the voice of the Holy Spirit. Now, remember, I told you guys in the beginning, again, if you have not caught part one, you have to catch part one in order for this to make sense, okay? That she grew up in the adopted home, was a Christian home, and all of that. So this young girl, like, gave her life to God when she was just 6 years old. And so she knows who God is. She had a relationship and all of that, but she's just on her journey. She's just in her thing called life, right? And she hears God basically talking to her, saying, hey, you don't belong here. What are you doing here? And at first she thinks she's going crazy. Could you imagine? She's in the strip club, all dolled up, looking all cute, smelling all great. She's asking, you want to dance? You want to dance? And then God just starts speaking to her, and that's hilarious to me. Okay, because God is funny like that, for real, for real. Um, and this is what happens to her. And so she's made several attempts to get out, but each time that she made those attempts, the money just didn't match. The money just didn't compare. And she found herself going back because of the money. 3 times she attempted to get out. The third time was actually successful. And I believe it was successful because of these variables. She had a support system. She had a partner that loved her, a support system. And, they were on that path to rededicating their life to Christ and all of that. So being invited to church and all of that, these events helped to begin to shift and pivot her life. She then went on to basically answer the call, if you will. So at this point, she's rededicated her life. She's back in church, slowly but surely coming out of this world that she had known for the last few years. And she's going through that process. Her mind is being renewed, is being shifted, is being changed. There was so much that she had to purge from and release and go through during this process. Once she began to pivot and rededicate her life back to Christ, and is now back in the church. And ironic enough, in the beginning, I told you guys that she found her own gift. Her siblings had a lot of different gifts, but she found her own gift. And her gift was the gift of dance. She could move her body in such a way. Well, the irony, while she was in adult entertainment dancing and doing all that stuff, she sees people dancing in the church, and she remembered from when she was younger how she used to dance in church, and something inside of her just connected, and she answers this call to dance for God, right? And so she's still going through her purging process, and the very thing that the enemy tried to use to snatch her life, to take her life, dancing in the club, right, is the very thing that God uses to pull her in and to pull her near and to cultivate an intimate relationship with her. She literally, her life transforms and changes before people's eyes, literally. And she goes on to launch out into ministry, and she begins to teach others the art of worship and intimacy with God through these different forms of worship, like dance, mime, and all these different things. From that, she begins to create curriculum, and she's got an online academy. I'm talking about this ministry thing is really moving for her. And she never set out to do ministry. It was her. She had one heart's desire, and that was to be pleasing to God and to just give back what he gave her. And so throughout this ministry forms, it comes, she's traveling, she's teaching, she's holding workshops, doing conferences, she's imparting this wisdom and this level of intimacy that she's garnered through her personal relationship and her process of coming back into Christ. And she winds up, doing the online academy. The online academy, because of that, she winds up publishing like 4 books. So she becomes an author by default, not even intentional, just trying to find a way to duplicate herself, because she's only one person, but she wants to make sure things are done in excellence and things are done right, and to make sure the students have what they need. So she becomes an author by default. And she's like, how can I expand my reach more? because everybody's not going to take the course online. And so she had the course. The course came with one book, but she wanted to duplicate herself, her being only one person. So she published 3 more, total 4, in order for people to just purchase the books and do the lessons and stuff independently and or with their ministries. And so this is all happening. She's traveling, she's preaching, she's teaching, this is just happening on its own, right? Nothing that she set out to actually do or to be. And as time goes on, she hears, write a book about your life, like share your story and what you survived and what you've been through. And so she writes the book. She also receives the divine download, and she's told that she's going to be a coach. And at the time, she's like, she doesn't even identify. She doesn't know what a coach even is. Looks it up, finds out, oh, that's what a coach is. Tries to get certified and is out of budget. It does not meet budget. And she gets frustrated and she says, well, God, if that's really you, if I really heard your voice, then you got it. You'll work it out. And literally a year later from the time that she received that divine download, that's exactly what happened. And she became a certified coach, launches a new business as a coach, and her book becomes an Amazon bestseller. And from her story, her sharing her story and, empowering others and speaking and teaching, it affords her many opportunities. She becomes an international speaker, traveling to different places. She becomes sought after, helping other people, find their voice and transform their stuff into whatever they feel like it's supposed to be. And this young lady, y'all, that was once lost, this young lady that went through all of the trauma and these different things and these different experiences, goes from being the victim to becoming the victor, goes from being in a place of defeat to helping others strategize to overcome and come out of defeat. Helping and empowering people to see their situations, their circumstances, their experiences, and the things that they have been through, and literally sharing with them a sacred process to help them transform that into something else. And so she goes from, being all of these other things, right? A mistress to a minister, like it's just major transformation. And so I want to share with you really quickly, okay, that there is so much power in the things that we experience. It really, really is. And that's why I love interviewing people and hearing their stories and the things that they have gone through and how they transform it and turn it into something that not only liberates themselves, but has the capacity and the power to liberate others. And so going from mistress to minister, exhorter to speaker, and, girl, listen. Girl or sir, if you're watching, okay? All this stuff, this major transformation, I find it fascinating, okay? Not only do I find the story of the lost girl fascinating, but I'm here to tell you that the story of the lost girl is me. Yes, I was her. I went through those things and I transformed those things into something. And that's why I'm so personally passionate about helping people to see their experiences in ways that's often hard to see because of the humanity of the experience, having to feel that pain, having to go through those things. Sometimes it's hard to see what's really locked and loaded inside of those experiences in order to transform them. So before we go, as promised, I want to give you guys some really, really important information. We did preventative last week, and this week I kind of want to go into deeper. I told you guys I wanted to kind of talk about signs and stuff like that. So really quickly, I'm going to start with some statistics, okay? These are some fun facts. Now, I'm not sure what the statistics are worldwide, but I can share the statistics for Atlanta, all right? Did you know that 95% of women in the adult entertainment and sex industry were sexually abused as children? Did you know that 82.1% of victims in sex trafficking incidents are identified as U.S. citizens? Remember, it's happening in our own backyard. Did you know that the average age a girl enters into prostitution is between the age of 11 and 14? Did you know that 89% of the women in adult entertainment and the sex industry said that they wanted out, but had no other means of survival? Did you know that 73% of the women in prostitution have been raped more than 5 times? Did you know that 70% of females who are trafficked into the commercial sex industry? This is just a glimpse of the percentages. Now, those are some high percentages, y'all. That's really, really, really high. And so what I always tell people is, before you judge the quote unquote prostitute on the street, before you judge the high-end upscale escort or courtesan, before you judge that girl in the strip club, think about these 2 episodes. Every single person is a soul. That is a human being. And while we may not understand, and for some people may not agree with what is happening or with what they are doing, every single person has a story, and you never, absolutely never know what led them to where they are. You never know. And so in terms of being a voice and or being of help to these individuals, you must have a non-judgmental, unbiased heart. You just have to have an open mind, because you never know what has led them to where they are. And I am a believer and am for choice. In other words, there are some women who are in these industries voluntarily and willingly. There are some women who were trafficked in, okay? And there are some women who voluntarily go in, but they go in for survival purposes. As I stated, statistic-wise, they would prefer to do something else, but this is the only thing that they know. That's they feel like that's the only means of survival that they have, And while I did share my story, I didn't give everything, because I was trying to be cognizant of time and chop it up to where you get the gist of what is needed. But if you want to read my story in detail, you can find this book everywhere that books are sold. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, You can find it everywhere books are sold. And if you would like a personalized autographed copy, you can simply go to my website. I'll leave it in the show notes in the description below and purchase you an autographed copy from my website. Now, I want to, right quick, get into some of the things. I kind of alluded to it a little bit with the statistics, but there are a lot of signs, if you will, or let me say it like this. There are a lot of things that those who end up in these industries and in these places have in common. As you know, I stated before, a lot of these women and men who are trafficked have some type of sexual abuse in their childhood, rape, physical abuse in their in their childhood. There may be a lack of education. They normally go through major loss within their childhood. There may or may not be some type of criminal background. They may or may have not experienced domestic violence on some sort of level. They 9 times out of 10 have experienced, some type of parental abandonment and or neglect. They have experienced either being underemployed or unemployed, hence survival, like not having enough and needing to come up on money quick and fast. They usually have 1 or more years in the sex industry or adult entertainment. They have at some point experienced, for the most part, being trafficked or pimped by a close friend or family member. Mentally, they suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, have probably gone through some type of self-harm or depression, emotional self-abuse, dissociative identity disorder, and have little to no coping mechanisms. These are some of the things that are common. And it's a process to heal and to purge when you come out of that. I'm just super grateful for those who are advocates and who are raising awareness every single day and putting resources in place for those who are in need. A lot of these women and or men experience domestic sex trafficking or massage brothels, prostitution, pornography, escort, strip clubs, other forms of adult entertainment such as like phone sex operator, webcam, all that, those different things. And they have, again, some type of traumatic abusive background. There aren't too many. I'm sure that some exist, but there really usually aren't too many who are in that type of field or work that hasn't experienced something traumatic in their life. In terms of signs, I love how now with domestic violence, they've developed literal signs like hand gestures that can be expressed for, people to know that they are in trouble and in need of help. And I honestly feel like when it comes to those who have been trafficked or those who are in a situation that they don't want to be in, that's something that would be helpful as well for that to be developed and for them to get out of situations. But other signs, usually include them looking as though they are there but not there. It's almost like they have this glazed over look where they really don't want to be in existence. You know what I mean? Because of just the things that they have to go through and, what they have to do, Typically, those in this line of work, they do eventually deal with some type of addiction, whether it be alcohol or whether it be drugs, to cope with and or to be quote unquote on to perform. Um, yeah. And so, signs, again, looking, sometimes they have these suspicious, vans and stuff like that. Just unmarked, nothing on the vans. Those who are into at that level of it where they are literally kidnapping, snatching, throwing people in vans, taking them, selling them, trafficking them that way, or whatever the case may be. Like I said, having that glazed over kind of like I'm here but not here look, often from my experience is what I have personally found to be, true. Um, in terms of help, I know a lot of people, especially now, because it's out there more now versus when I had my nonprofit and was advocating for it. There was maybe a handful of organizations that existed, and it was hard to really get volunteers and to really move because people couldn't stomach the work. It just couldn't stomach the work and what it took. But for those of you who want to do outreach, for those of you who are maybe in a ministerial capacity and you feel led and called to this, again, I'm going to say non-judgmental. You want to meet people where they are because you never know how, where, what's going on. You don't want to be pushy, and you want to make sure you have the resources in place for successful transition. A lot of the times, people have a lot to say about what people are doing and how they're making money, but you don't have the proper setup for them to successfully transition and easily transition. And there is more than one way to transition and come out of the industry, if you will. Some people stack up money and they do it on their own, and while others need a support system. Like for me, I had a support system. I got back aligned spiritually. I also went back to school, right? I went to get my GED. I got a trade. I did what was necessary in order to be able to take care of myself, to successfully transition out of that. And in the midst of, being able to transition, come out of that, work a job and all that stuff, there was some amazing things that happened, and I wound up becoming an entrepreneur and going into business for myself and helping and empowering others. Y'all, I'm sorry. Y'all see me touching my face a lot. I don't know. I'm a little sleepy today. But yes, it's a mindset thing in order to transition out, because when you're in that lifestyle, there's so much that, as far as your mind is like totally rewired in a different way. And then when you come out, the mind has to be rewired and renewed again. Okay. So it's definitely a mindset thing. Especially in terms of stewardship with finances. You get used to a fast-paced life, making money really, really fast. And not only making money fast, but spending it just as fast and making it right back. And so, there's a lot that one has to go through mentally in order to shift the paradigm to be able to kind of like, normal life, where you got a budget, where you got to, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So I hope that this has been an eye opener for you all. I hope that you've taken away some things. There are more signs, of course. I kind of just named two very, very light ones. Sometimes talking about this kind of gets to me a little bit. It does. And that's why I left the advocating to others. But every now and again, I don't mind lending my voice as a survivor, as someone who has taken everything that they have experienced and turned it into something else that not only liberated and empowered myself, but continues to empower others every single day. So, I love you guys to life. As usual, I'm going to have some resources in the show notes below or in the description. And I'm also going to have those links that I promised. If you guys don't remember anything else, as usual, please remember to believe in yourself. Oh my God. Believe in yourself, honey. Believe in your future so much that you outlive your past. I'm a living, breathing, and walking testament that if you believe in your future enough, that you will outlive your past. You can totally transform that thing. All right. So I love you to life, and I'm going to see you next episode. Listen, I'm thinking about changing the name of the podcast. Really briefly, y'all could comment, leave me some comments, and let me know if you think I should keep the name of the podcast it is currently, or if I should go ahead and change it to Birth Her the Podcast, because I think I really want to change it. We're in a new year now, doing new things. I know we're in season 2, and we just kind of like came back. We've been back for a little over a month now, but we just kind of like, came back. And now I want to change the name. I know, y'all just gotta flow with me. I go with what I feel like needs to happen. So let me know if y'all like that. It's still the same podcast, still the same type of content, still interviewing others and having different like solo episodes. But I think I really want to change it to Her. Y'all let me know what you think. All right. Love you to life. See you next time. Thanks for tuning into Diaries of an Ex-Adult Entertainer, the podcast. Don't forget to connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Robyn D. Robbins. Important links for this episode can be found in the description. Until next time, share this podcast with a friend. Hugs and much love, beautiful soul.